Hello, everyone. Welcome to another GBSN cross-border webinar. Today's webinar is the second in this three-part series on business schools and the call to community action. We've got three GBSN member schools sitting on a panel today with our CEO, Dan LeClair, ESADE, we have University of Macau, and Groupe ISM. Now, before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping tasks. You as a webinar participant are muted during the duration of the webinar. This will be a live discussion, so please, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments through the Q&A function or the chat function on your toolbar at any moment during the webinar. Dan, who is moderating the discussion, will try and get everyone's questions and comments answered throughout the webinar. This webinar is also being recorded, so you will receive the webinar recording of the webinar after the discussion. And without further ado, I will hand it over to the Global Business School Network CEO, Dan LeClair.
And thanks, Maddie. I appreciate the introduction. And welcome again to this series of webinars, Business Schools and the Call to Community Action. Tell you a little bit more about the series in a moment, but just to start us off, I'd like to welcome you also to the Global Business School Network. Some of you may not have had exposure to the Global Business School Network in the past. We are a network of leading business schools working with companies, with NGOs, and with governments to improve access to management education for the developing world. So our emphasis for 17 years as an organization has been on improving capacity for management education and development. Now, the last time, the first in the series featured schools from Kenya, from the US, and from the UK. This time, we're lucky to have representatives from schools in Spain, from Macau, the SAR, and from, of course, Senegal. I'll introduce the panelists just briefly in a moment. But I want to just say a few words about why we're doing this series. We recognize that among all the things that GBSN is doing, this might not be the most popular thing to offer, especially since many schools are really just struggling to, as we say, put their masks on. When you fly, the flight attendants are always quick to encourage you to get your masks fully on and secure before helping others around you. And this is a particularly challenging time for business schools, as it is for other organizations and people that they work with. So these schools in particular that we're featuring have done a good job of not only transitioning, for example, from teaching in person to teaching online in a really short period of time, but they've begun to do things that are beyond the call to help their communities. So they're helping everyone around them, even while putting their mask on and making a difference with their day-to-day work. We're doing this series for a couple of reasons. We want to inspire others to do similar things, but we also think as part of the conversation, during the conversation, we spark new ideas, new thoughts about how we might assist our communities and ourselves in business schools. So without hesitating anymore, I just want to say a few words about each of our panelists. We have Cristina Gimenez from ESADE in Spain. We know Spain was hit pretty hard with the virus pretty early. And we look forward to hearing how ESADE has responded. Cristina is a professor in operations, innovation, and data sciences. Earned a DBA from the University of Barcelona and achieved some honors along the way. I encourage you all to look at the bios for each one of our speakers, so I'll only say a few words. but we're happy to have you here, Cristina. Second, we have Jean Chen. I've known Jean for a long time. She's had a great career, not only as an academic in accounting and finance, though her PhD is in economics, but Jean has had a great career in the UK, having served in leadership roles at Surrey, at Southampton as a founding dean. And when I first got to know Jean was at Xian Jiaotong Liverpool University in China, where I spent a little time visiting. Finally, we have Kamil Senhaji. Kamil is the president of the Groupe ISM in the francophone part of Africa, but he's also a director of Groupe ISM, a regional director, which covers a surprisingly large amount of territory. It's hardly a region, I think, but the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. And we look forward to hearing from Kamil about how the different regions, but most importantly, the work in Francophone Africa has been helpful to their communities. So I want to just start by asking for a brief context setting. One of the things I've learned about what's happening right now, a pandemic is global by definition, right? We know that things are affecting all of us everywhere, but I've learned that the way we are affected and the way we respond is largely contextual. It depends on not only the biology, I suppose, the behavior of the virus, but also the history of the country and the region, the culture, and the specific circumstances of the institutions. Now, we don't want to get into all of that, but if you could just give us maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute and tell us where your country and your schools are in this in the current situation related to COVID-19 and the economic issues associated with COVID-19. Cristina, maybe we could just start with you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here with you and share with you what we have been doing during these months. Spain was very highly affected by the pandemic early, okay? Just after China, it hit Italy and very quickly Spain. So when we saw what was happening in Italy, we already in early March started building some contingency plans in order to be able to move all the teaching online and getting involved with the communities. So we locked down in March 18th, okay? In March 19th, oral faculty were joining online trainings to be able to run the courses, okay, to continue with the teaching. And in fact, we were closing a Thursday 19, and on Monday 23rd, students were continuing with their classes. So our first reaction as an academic institution was to keep our students' learning process, okay? That was our first reaction, okay? I'm leading the identity and mission unit, okay? So all the voluntary and engagement with community initiatives are managed from my unit, okay? From this unit. So during this first week, we also were trying to understand what we could do to help our community as a business school. We knew it was a health issue and we didn't have a medical school, okay? So during the first week, we were trying to think how we could help our society, okay? So I think I will leave this to the next question, Dan, maybe the rest of the speakers can share, and I will share with you what we did, okay, during the second week.
Dan, you are on mute. Dan, you are on mute.
Good. Thank you very much. I encouraged everyone to put on mute when they're not speaking, and I fell victim to my own initiative there. But Jean, even earlier perhaps than Spain, I hadn't heard much about how Macau was affected in relationship to Wuhan and Hong Kong. Could you just tell us a little bit about the context in which you were dealing with? And timing seems pretty important too. So following on Christina's initial comments, just briefly, maybe 1 minute to tell us where you're at in the whole pandemic.
Hello everyone. It's really nice to join you today. The pandemic and its impact on Macau, I think it's quite different from most of the world because although we are almost part of China, we connected by the sea, by land, but amazingly, only 45 cases identified in Macau. And among these 45, 43 are imported cases. So really, it's only 2 local cases being infected, but they all they all cured now, and they all get out of the hospital. So no mortality. Really, I think the Macau government responded very quickly when the pandemic started in China. So the lockdown started from the 23rd of January, even until now. People now have freedom to go out shopping, dining. We see more and more people on the street. They never practice a completely lockdown, locking everyone at home. So really from that perspective, they may be one of the least affected country in terms of the infected cases. But the worst impact is Macau's industry is really heavily reliant on gaming and tourism. So this pandemic hit this industry badly. And if we say gaming and the tourism industry supported 80% of the total region's revenue, now it's almost vanished. So our task is, as a university, we changed all the teaching and learning online. That is like all the others, I think it's running quite smoothly. Research is, there are something affected, but for the business school, it's at least affected. But the most important thing we look into is how to keep our engagement with the corporate world, how to keep our engagement with the society to fulfill our social responsibilities, how we help them. So starting from there, I will leave most of the other discussions later by sharing the experience of how we do and what we do.
Great. We look forward to coming back to those questions. Kamil, tell us about what's happening in Francophone Africa. You don't have to constrain yourself to that only, but give us a little context. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, sure. So just one thing on what I do as a regional. It's not for ISM. Indeed, I'm president of ISM, but ISM is part of Galileo Global Education, which is the #1 higher education company in Europe and #2 in the world. We have 80 campuses around the world, and I'm taking care of everything out of Europe. And I'm, by that way, president of Groupe ISM. On the COVID-19, it has been quite surprising in Africa because every expert at the beginning of the COVID said it was the end of Africa, it's going to be a catastrophe, etc. But in reality, from a health perspective, that was not the case. Don't ask me why scientifically, I couldn't answer. There are a lot of theories, maybe because they take chloroquine very soon, maybe because of the seasonality and the heat. So there are many theories, but I think we will know that after, when there will be some serious research on that. But if I take a country like Senegal, there have been only 3,000 cases now tested. Of course, there is not as much testing as in modern countries, but the test that they have done so far is around 3,000, and the death rate is very low. We only have like 36 deaths declared due to COVID-19 as of now in Senegal, as of today. So the health issue was not as catastrophic as we were taking, but the economic consequences were very strong, because we have a strong informal economy. That was very, very hard to handle because people were very much affected by this economically. And so we had, of course, to shift to online and to use Blackboard for all our students, because most of them were in remote areas or at home, and the schools were shut down very quickly because of the scare at the beginning, when the experts were saying everyone will be in a difficult situation. So everything was closed very quickly, and within 10 days time, we have managed to put all our courses online on Blackboard.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Kamil. And it sounds like you have some help in the background, which is just fine. We want you to know.
Yeah, when another speaker will start, I will just take care of that. But indeed, I had the baby that started at the right moment. So sorry.
It's one of those things that I think all of us are dealing with. So not to worry. I'm sure our participants will be just fine with that as well. But why don't we actually come back to the starting point again, Cristina, with you, and offer you just a few moments to introduce us to some of the initiatives at ESADE, one or two of the initiatives at ESADE, which I understand you've done primarily to support a very important group to students, a very important part of your community, and that is the future students of ESADE, which many of us don't always immediately think of, but give us a little bit of insight into what this program is. We'll come back to some questions about why and about some of the challenges and where to go next, but just give us a brief introduction if you could.
Okay, so as I said, first week was focusing on getting everything online. Second week, we already started contributing to society. How? We open webinars and some courses to companies, okay? So that's for one side. In another side, through the Social Innovation Institute, we got in contact with many NGOs, okay, and social entities, and gave visibility about their needs, okay, interviewing them, sharing with through social media what were their needs, etc. And then one of the initiatives that we promoted was a community building program, okay? This community building program was a set of 3 main initiatives that I can explain you later, but this community building program had the aim of stressing the sense of a community among our members, putting emphasis on 2 dimensions of our identity. Okay, so it was not just being present and connecting, but putting emphasis on 2 dimensions of our identity. And our identity dimensions are, on the one side, human quality and sensibility. Okay, so we wanted to stress this. And second, we wanted to stress our social commitment. Okay, so all the initiatives we run through this program called Community Building, and you can enter into the website, there is a web, okay? So we immediately built a website. We started communicating every week with our community, and our community was faculty, administrative staff, and students, okay? And the type the type of initiatives we were promoting were three, okay? On the one side, conversations, okay? To develop this human sensibility, we developed conversations which were one-to-one conversations and group conversations. So you enter into our website, you will see that every Friday afternoon, there was a conversation. For example, the first one was about how to live confinement with kids and young teenagers at home. Why? Because this was one of the key concerns of some of our staff, okay? Then the following week, there was another talk about how to care about all our elderly people, okay? So these were topics that we as a professional, but as humans, care about, okay? So this was one of the type of initiatives. The second type of initiatives we were promoted were to put in this website resources that could help our people, okay, work their inner life, okay? Their sense of purpose, connecting with their inner purpose in life, okay? And then a third type of initiatives between this community building program, we had voluntary initiatives. So in this part, okay, we did two things. One, give visibility to the solidarity initiatives that our community, alumni, current students, faculty were promoting. So give visibility. So for example, some Chinese former students connected us from China, okay, former students, and they put in contact Chinese doctors with doctors in Barcelona. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, okay, this was super important because doctors were the ones fighting, right, against this pandemic. So the sharing the experience from colleagues that had been working against this virus during some months was something important, okay? But as an institution, we offer one voluntary program that was with an NGO called Friends of the Elderly, okay? So we propose our community members to join this initiative. More than 50 people registered, and the voluntary work consisted on phoning elderly people, okay? And we thought that that's the way we could help our immediate society that were not companies, were not students, you know, but these were people that were suffering a lot. Were suffering because they were scared about what was going on. Many of them felt alone. They were living alone. The people from this NGO that used to go to visit them every day or every few days were not able to visit them. So we joined an initiative from this NGO that consisted on phoning people, okay? So these are the type of initiatives we run, okay, to get our ESADE community involved with society, okay, in different fronts.
Great, thank you so much. This is one of those occasions I actually came in thinking we were going to talk about one small part, but you've opened up to give us a much richer understanding about not only the programs, but ESADE's identity and its spirit. Thank you for that, Cristina. Well, I've made a couple of notes that we'll come back to with some additional questions. Jean, I want to come back to you now. You know, it's very interesting. No wonder I didn't hear much about what was happening in Macau, because thankfully not much was happening in Macau regarding the virus, but very, very importantly that you say that that does not make Macau immune from the economic consequences. And if you could speak to how the University of Macau, and in particular the Faculty of Business Administration, has responded to that, that would be great. Thanks.
Right. Well, as I said, Macau may be one of the regions least affected in terms of health and safety. And also Macau is a quite rich region in terms of GDP per capita. It's ranked number 2 or number 3 in the world last year. So the government has built a large pool of reserve. And they do look after they look after their citizens quite well, because it's not many cases reported, people is not that panic. And the government gave every citizen about $1,000 to spend on everything you want, shopping, dining, from May for 3 months. It is also said that they may give other slot when this first money was not finished. And that also government gave a lot of tax holiday, some interest reduction on loans. But they really, I would say, look after their citizens quite well. But the problem is, the majority of the local firms are very small SMEs. Because of the close down of the major industry, there's not much business. They are out of the market. So the first thing we think, as a business school, we could help us are specified in our mission and vision is to help the sustainability and economic growth in the country, in the region. So we start with to help SMEs to upgrade their knowledge of running a business in a different way. We do a lot of promotion about SMC's development and the financing model. That's how we start. We waive all the tuition fees of training, so we provide free training. We believe that is our chance to transfer the way that the communities think of a business school. They normally regard a business school as a cash cow, but this time we give back. In the past 2 months, we organize weekly training seminars to SMEs. We trained about 500 people locally, free of charge, twice every week on a wider range of topics. Like strategy, how to develop alternative strategy, financial management, different business model, the e-business, how to change the traditional way of marketing, promotion and selling, and how to use the e-platform to do the business. Some basic skills for the SMEs. If we calculate the total investment in a normal time, a charge applies, it will be about $300,000 worth of training. Then we upgrade our trainings to executive education for the senior executives of the integrated resort industry. There are 6 IR, we call it IR, operators or gaming operators in Macau. There are some big names that you may familiar, like MGM, Wynn Palace. They are very popular in Las Vegas. They also have their operation here in Macau. The 6 big operators, we provide a leadership training. how to dealing with crisis like this, how to work together with the local SMEs to overcome this difficult period of time. We just had a very good discussion, a forum this morning. We spent 3 hours with the 6 IRs together with the officials from local government, from central government of China, try to find a way to work together to promote non-gaming factors. I said the industry badly hit, almost the backbone of the economy has been hit badly. Then we need to find a new way to survive. The local government described this, finding an alternative business called non-gaming factors. That is something we actively promoted. We also organized executive training for this large business with Bank of China. Together, we have done 3 series of EDPs on leadership business training, try to help the IR industry get out of the recession quickly, provide some consultancy work.
Great. It sounds like a great breadth of really focused work to not only help businesses get through this, it seems, but also to build a more resilient economy in many ways, right? The hope, it sounds like, is to come out stronger as a consequence of this experience. Thanks for sharing that. I have also a couple of questions I want to come back to, but we want to turn to Kamil now. And if you could just give us an introduction to the community-focused efforts of ISM, Groupe ISM, that would be great. And then we'll just do some conversation around some of the critical elements around these programs.
Perfect. So at ISM, we are very much focused on the community work and community help, and also how to train our future, our students to be future leaders and leading by purpose, and getting to have the soft skills needed for that. And so before COVID, we were already doing 4 weeks during the year that are dedicated to these kinds of soft skills and work to the community. I will give some few examples. There is the Environment Week, where we send all our students to collect garbage in some neighbors or on the seaside, and they go really massively, like 1,000 students in a place, and to clean it up. For example, this is one of the examples we do. There is the Health Week, where we go give some blood to the hospitals. We also have some students doing some readings to some small kids that are affected by a health issue. And so they will do some reading, help them continue their work, etc., so that they don't lose the path, and that they can be reinserted after they get better. So every week is dedicated to something. Before COVID. On the COVID side, of course, we couldn't, because of the confinement and all the restrictive measures, do that, but we wanted to keep strongly the link with our students, and especially on this soft skills part. And so we have transformed what we call the Soft Skills Academy into a Soft Skills Academy that is virtual, and we kept really feeding our Instagram and some webinars, etc., on these topics. And so we have also continued what we called the African Genius Festival, which the team was living together, and now it was living together remote. And so we continue to do some actions on this soft skills, behavior, and how to reinvent yourself via all these virtual platforms, which worked very well, and I think the students appreciated. And the idea was that each one could do a short video, because we were in a remote work. And so a video of poetry, dance, singing, slamming, whatever. And we did like a kind of a selection of these kinds of soft skills to see who were the best videos, etc., and creating this interaction with all the students. So that's helped us for us as an institution to keep the link with them in something else than studies, on top of connecting to Blackboard and doing the serious stuff. And for them, it was to still continue develop their soft skills despite this COVID situation.
Great, thank you for sharing that. I have learned in some of these conversations, most of them, that not only does learning continue, but the specific circumstances of COVID and the economic consequences have created new ways of learning that we've been able to shift and take advantage of. It sounds like you've been able to combine both service to the community with that kind of learning. Now, let me before going back to Cristina, because we had a question come in, and I just want to make sure that we create these opportunities for questions, which I encourage all of you to post either on the Q&A, or sometimes I see that people post to the chat, either way. And the question is for Dean Chen, and it's very specific, because you don't charge for the programs that you described, in particular the SME program. Were there any other criteria that you set for the kinds of learners that you engage in these? Oh, so Jean, you're on mute at the moment.
We kept tendency numbers. Then we group the firms, SMCs, according to the size. So each group will have a similar size, so they have more opportunity to interact and sharing. For the large, the IR operators, we also kept the number, say 5 maximum each time for one group.
Great. You know, one of the things that I've discovered in the various discussions that we've had about business school responses is that there seems to have been I don't know if I'd call it a hidden demand, but what I've seen is that when business schools have offered new programs really very quickly and done so at a different price point, in many cases free, that it's unlocked a really huge demand. And you know, I can tell from your programs as well, with 500 participants over the course of several weeks, seems like it's touched a lot of people. So congratulations on that. Cristina, you know, it's very interesting the way you've described this program, starting with really the structure that was apparently set up even prior to this. Your office was responsible for this, and it must have been quite a surprise nonetheless to have to react quickly with these types of programs that you have. And I'm wondering what some of the challenges were. And you know, besides having to react quickly and design and deliver programs on the spot, basically, what other kinds of challenges did you face in instituting these, especially these voluntary initiatives? Hello, Cristina? Okay, Cristina is frozen on my screen. I hope that doesn't mean I'm the one frozen. No, I can see Jean moving. So we'll come back to Cristina.
No.
Oh, there you are. I don't know if you heard my question.
When you were started the question, no, I listened the first the explanation, the introduction to the question, but not the question.
Oh, sure. Well, I was hoping you could explore with us, you know, despite having an office set up to support these kinds of community programs, must have been fairly challenging to react so quickly to the kinds of opportunities that presented itself during this time. Could you tell us a little bit about some of those challenges?
Okay, let me say that this office, this unit is new. Okay, so in fact, it's new. It's 1 year old. Okay, so we started. The aim of this unit was to promote initiatives with other units to make our identity more present among all of us, and to make our mission statement something that was a life mission. Okay, that we were living the mission in our day-to-day. Okay, so we had to start it 1 year ago with conversations about who we are. Okay, what is our aim as institution? Okay, what is our mission? Why we should prepare professionals who are highly competent, but also highly socially committed. Okay, this type of conversations we were having. Okay, and on the other side, we were promoting initiatives with the students and faculty to get involved in community engaged initiatives. Okay, so this was already in place. Okay, but since 1 year ago, this unit was centralizing this type of initiatives and linking them more to the mission. Okay, so the pandemic arrives. Okay, and the type of conversations that we had started half a year ago, suddenly we cannot have this type of conversations, right? We were bringing our community to another place to spend 1 day in outside campus and talk about this type of things. So the first thing we did was, okay, how can we continue working with that? Okay, online, in an online format. Okay, so the first challenge is related to the fact that our unit was new. Okay, and many other units at ESADE didn't know very much what we were doing, what was our aim. You know what I mean? It's not that there were challenges against this community building program for the pandemic situation. Okay, so the first, I think all the community accepted very well this type of initiatives and joined. It was a very well accepted program. And if I need to say one challenge, because always you find challenges, okay, I would say that the challenge we found was how to get presence in the internal memos every week, okay, which is a very operational issue, you know. But when you move to an online environment, okay, and we get along very well with the communication people. It was nothing against between people, etc. It was just us getting to know how to get in the memos. You know what I mean?
I understand. Yeah.
Okay, it was not important challenges. I mean, all our people were looking for this type of community building initiatives. Okay, so the most important challenge was how to move to an online presence, because before people knew how to get in contact with us through an email, coming to our office, etc. So when we were out, okay, from campus, we needed to be more present, okay, in the web. That's why we built this web. Okay, that's why we work with the communications team to be more present in the communications with our staff, etc. Okay.
Well, I understand from many schools that communication has been one of the biggest challenges, period. Especially since for any university and business school, there are many moving parts, and this set of issues that we've been dealing with is really drawn out those moving parts and helped us to understand how, in many ways, to communicate more effectively. We had a question come in, but before I get to the question, I think there's a great opportunity to come back to Kamil for a question. Many people have said in the past that soft skills are very challenging to learn or teach, right, online. You know, so at a distance, and many people feel like the courses that have been run more effectively in this current environment are the more quantitative oriented courses like accounting and finance, and some have claimed that they're quite a bit better online than they had been in person. But with soft skills, a challenge that ISM has taken on very squarely. How do you feel about this question regarding learning soft skills online? You must have discovered some new ways of doing this that are worth sharing. Kamil, did we lose you, or oh, there you are. You've relocated.
It's fine. So no, actually, as I said, it's not really courses about soft skills. It's more to get the students doing the job. So it's for them to train in their home on their singing or slam, on their poetry or whatever, anything that they feel is their hobby. And then we try to help them to put that into a video and participate to the challenge. So it's more something that it is their input rather than us pushing some material on soft skills. As you say, it would have been very difficult to do a blackboard course on most of the soft skills. It's more something that you have to really have an interaction with the person to do it. So it was more giving them the opportunity to participate to that challenge and create this link with the community.
All right, I understand that's important. The kinds of skills that they might have picked up in a different environment, and this particular program was not designed to do that. But if you could help us to understand a little bit more about how the original program worked, and how do we, if you could offer some insights, how do we as business schools offer this continuity in the development of softer skills like communication? You know, this seems to be a program that does enhance the way we communicate, if there's some feedback on it. But do you have any ideas from your experience, Kamil, besides with the program?
Yeah, no, we believe that these kinds of initiative, that's why we have really a dedicated department on soft skills. It's really, there is a manager that is managing only this. So he works only on community work with the students. He takes care of the 4 weeks that we have. One is the creative week, one is the health week, one is the environment week, etc. So he's doing only this. And we think that rather than having some courses on these kinds of soft skills, we can also have these kinds of initiatives that are kind of fun for the students, but where in an indirect manner they are learning those soft skills. So it's a combination, I think, of both. You can have some communications courses with real academic communication stuff, leadership courses, etc. But leadership, you can also learn it in sport, you can learn it doing some community work, etc. So we believe that there is a good mix of that, and that's what we do with the Soft Skills Academy and with the African Genius Festival.
Great, thank you very much, Kamil. That's very helpful to understand your approach with the centralized office to support this kind of learning. The question I want to come back to is one that was posed to Professor Cristina, right? And it's about exams. And I'm anxious to make sure that everybody knows, not just you, Cristina, but Jean and Kamil, if you'd like to respond as well. And I'm sorry if it's not exactly relevant to this discussion, but I think it's an important question nonetheless. Many schools are struggling with this question about assessment. And you know, this idea that, yeah, sure, maybe learning continues to take place in the current environment, but how do we know? And you know, for me, this is a natural lead into some questions about how do you know that your programs are working? Maybe Cristina, you could take an initial try at this question. It's a tough one, but how do you ensure that the learning has taken place through assessments and exams? I know that's not exactly the function of your office, but if you could comment, that would be great. Cristina, but we lost you. We always, she'll be back in a second.
Dan, you want me to take over for giving time to
that'd
Cristina?
be great, and then we'll also let Jean try as well.
Okay.
Please do, Kamil.
As I have been supervising several countries in different continents on this topic, I have seen a different reaction of the authorities on this. Here is, maybe I'll let Cristina start because the question was for her, and then I'll come back to what we have.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on today now, but I have an internet unstable connection. I don't know, my classes have been very well, but today maybe there are something going on in my village.
No worries, it's one of those things I think we've all become accustomed to at times. But Cristina, it's a very straightforward question. It may not be exactly within the scope of work for your office, but it's one worth addressing nonetheless. And that is, how do we ensure that the learning that we think is happening online is actually happening? And by this we mean, how do we assess the effectiveness of some of the things that we're doing in terms of the learning goals?
Okay, I can answer this very well because I'm in the meeting every day, evaluating how is our learning experience. Okay, and also I'm teaching this term. Okay, so as a faculty member, I had to review my course and review all the grading, etc. So in fact, we were not only and regarding the question we have received, the accreditation, the national accreditation agencies that make our titles official, they have provided guidelines that we can follow in order to have all exams being performed online. In fact, last week we finished with the undergraduate program exams. And in 1-2 weeks, we start with the MSc online exams. So all the courses have been able to be with regular assessment, okay? But when grading, when we, as a faculty, when we redesign the courses, for example, I was starting my course just 2 weeks after locking down. So I was able to review all the sessions and how I was going to grade students, okay, to assess students. So for example, we have put a lot of emphasis on continuous assessment. So I'm meeting, I prepare online materials for videos and tutorials for most of the topics, and then devoted the streaming to be with small teams of 6 to 8 students, so I can follow them, okay, very closely if they are understanding the case studies, etc. And then there is one final exam that is performed online, and we split the students in small teams and control them through the camera, a second camera, etc. Putting all these means that all the schools are exploring now.
Well, thanks, Cristina. It sounds like it's a pretty comprehensive program. Kamil, you were going to suggest some ideas as well, especially with 10,000 students across different campuses. It must be a big challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It is more from authority side. And so the authorities for now in Senegal has refused to have exam because they are scared of plagiarism, about fraud in the exam. So they want to make sure that you will really have the student that is passing the exam. And so we are still working with them. In other countries, it's very variable. So we do a lot of discussion with the authorities to try to find some solution. For the moment in Senegal, we are going to have presential exams, and that also creates a problem because some students are against that. They say, I'm not coming back to the school as far as COVID is still here. So I don't want to come to the exam. And you don't know really who are the ones really scared from COVID, from the one that didn't follow seriously their courses on Blackboard and do their homework and just want to avoid the exam. So if you take 80% will be happy with the exam, but 20% are creating some bad buzz to say, we don't come to the, even if you put sanitary measures, we are not coming to pass to take the exam. So that could be an issue. We are trying to convince the authorities about some tools. If you take Blackboard as well, you can have some anti-plagiarism tools, you can have some cameras. But if I see here in Europe as well, you have some challenges regarding the software that makes sure that the student is not cheating. And so from a data privacy perspective, some of the students are now criticizing this to say, I don't want a camera to be following each move that I'm doing in my house while taking the exam. So it's kind of weird, but it's going to be a topic, this kind of examination.
It's come up many times already in many conversations, this connection between privacy and assessment and grade and performance. Thanks. Jean, just quickly, how do you know that, especially the SMEs, we know SME owners in particular tend to be very busy, right? But you know, how have you assessed the learning that's been happening in that? If you could just quickly address that question. Then what we'll do is we'll do a quick round of closing remarks, just 30 seconds from each one of you before closing out the seminar.
In terms of SMEs, and here, e-business is not very popular. They really getting used to on-site service. But what they need to learn is how to do the business online. That's the key things we provide, we focus our trainings on. Not many of them even know how to use the mobile phone to do the payment, and also dealing with the orders coming through the mobile phone. Some basic skills they need to learn. That is their quick reaction. In the past, we feel really the training we conducted is only targeted high end of the market. But we do under this COVID-19, we just realized there are some basic skills that SMEs needs. It's not like, you know, modern technologies. People talk a lot about the fintech, blockchain, so on and so forth. But at the end, we find for many SMEs, some basic surviving skills needed.
Good time to get back to the basics when it comes to digital, it seems. Kamil, any quick final remarks you'd like to make about the work that you've been doing? We have run out of time, so if we just take 30 seconds and do a quick round for everyone, that would be great. We appreciate you being here so much.
As a closing remark, it will be more a general remark to say that this crisis should help us also integrate some few things in our curriculum, in our training to students, and to train them on these topics that are essential, which are soft skills, leading with purpose, and giving more purpose to anything that they are doing. I think this crisis has been an accelerator into this, and the second accelerator that it has provoked is to say that we are going to go more and more online, and we see that doing a test as massive as this, it has worked. So maybe now the reverse classroom could be something that many schools will consider more and more by having this live test done.
Great, thank you, Kamil. Cristina, any final remarks quickly before we close out?
Yeah, well, in a similar way as Kamil, it has been a challenging situation, but we have seen it as an opportunity to introduce more online teaching, okay? But also as an opportunity to stress what is important for our institution, you know, these parts of our identity and our mission, right? If we want to promote, to train highly competent and socially committed professionals, what can we do as faculty, staff, etc., to transmit that not only with words, but with our actions, okay? So this community building initiative look for that, okay? To make all the community, staff, faculty, students getting involved in helping our society.
Thank you, Cristina. And Jean, final remarks?
For the teaching and learning, I feel this COVID-19 crisis actually become an enabler for promoting technology enhanced teaching and learning. And more importantly, we find the most effective way is actually blend teaching and learning technology. The students do commented they miss the campus life. Something cannot be fully replicated by the online delivery. So on the research side, I think it's a good opportunity to promote nature experimental research and also back to narrative research, qualitative research to provide with more policy implications. More importantly, on the business engagement side, is provide a golden opportunity to make ourselves useful, then create impact for the sustainability of the whole society and the economy.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Kamil. A great program. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. It sounds like purpose is a big opportunity for business schools to shape how the communities think about them, about our schools, as well as to help them. But also this question about where we end up in terms of online learning and hybrid learning is a very important one we're learning a lot about. Thank you very much to all three of you. We appreciate your willingness to spend this time with us this morning. And thanks to all the guests that have logged in this morning to share ideas with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.